What's up, everyone, and welcome to Design and Dialogue. I'm your host, Jackie Clark, and today I have a very special guest by the name of Jabari Lateef, who is the Senior Business Analyst at Nike and founder of AfroNature. So, Jabari, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's good to be here. How are you on this lovely Wednesday?
I am blessed and highly favored. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here. But I want to start off. Congratulations to you on being the senior business analyst at Nike. And I know you're young, and that is such a huge title, especially for someone your age, and especially for a Black man in this role and field. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and then how you landed this senior business analyst role at Nike?
Yeah, great question. Well, first off, again, just want to say thank you for having me on here. It's really an honor, and I'm really grateful to, be able to reach out to have some outreach to, people that are interested in my story. So, really dope. So, thank you. But yeah, so I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and a lot of people have kind of preconceived notions of what it means to be from Alabama or from the Deep South in general. And I think early on that really fueled me to have a huge ambition and drive to be better, and to kind of achieve as high as I can. So I went to Auburn University. I did computer science there, and that's kind of what kickstarted my journey up to now. So 2015, I had my first internship as a software developer. This was outside of Atlanta. Didn't really care for it too much because, as you can probably tell, I'm much more social on the social side, high energy. Whereas when you're a developer, you're just kind of sitting in code every day, just not talking to people that much. So I wanted a little bit of balance of tech and business. Mm-hmm. So I got into big data. Mm-hmm. And this is when, 2017, my rising senior year, I had an internship in Silicon Valley. At SurveyMonkey, which I was a data science intern there. And that really kind of fueled, how I became a senior business systems analyst today. So fast forward, graduated college, 2018, went to work at Home Depot's headquarters for 6 months, and then made the jump all the way to Portland from Atlanta, literally opposite sides of the country, and, became a data analyst at Nike in 2019, and then kind of just kept working, and then became full-time as a senior business systems analyst in 2021. So
love that. That's a huge jump in transition. But for those who don't really know, I'm talking about myself. What is a business analyst? Exactly what do you guys do?
Yeah, it makes sense. So a business analyst really wears a lot of different hats. You can kind of think of it as, being the liaison between tech and the business. So I think that's don't get it twisted. That is a very sought after skill, to be able to have the technical aptitude to translate complex problems that your engineers give you and communicate that to the business partners. Basically saying hey, okay, this is what, this is why, because on the business side, they're always going to push for, for faster deployment, faster, testing, faster things getting done. But on the engineering side, it's not always the case. You're not always rushing against the clock. You're more so taking your time to get it right. So being the liaison between the two and saying, hey, this is why we can't deliver that product at the moment because, and then translating what your engineers told you, the technical terms, translating that to the business and what they would understand. Because you can be the most technically bright person in the world, but if the business doesn't understand it, then you're going nowhere. It's just running in circles. So that's kind of what a business analyst in a traditional sense would be.
I love that, and it's very technical, but I love that. So it sounds like to me you are the connector, the in between the two different sides to kind of make the communication a little bit more smoother, so the business continues to run as great as it does.
Correct.
Love that. So what have been some of the biggest challenges you faced in your career so far, and how have you overcome them?
That's a great question. Biggest challenge, I will probably say, this kind of goes back to what I mentioned about being from Alabama and having that chip on your shoulder. So imposter syndrome really hit me hard. And I think especially when I was interning in Silicon Valley, that was when, that imposter syndrome really started to kind of show itself because, my colleagues, like my, other interns would be from like, Harvard, Brown, UCLA, Cal Berkeley, Vanderbilt. And, I'm coming out of, rural college town. I mean, even though it's a great school, Auburn is an amazing school. And I love Auburn. But, academically, it's not an Ivy League school, or it's not a, Cal system school, big Cal school. So but, and then also let's not even front, like, just being one of the only Black people in meetings oftentimes. Being Black in tech is not easy. Tech in general is hard, but, being Black in tech is even harder. So I think, really just making sure that you're on your A game in meetings, making sure that, you understand the content, you understand, the problems that's going on, because people will definitely doubt you, when you're young and you're Black too. So yeah, it's like a lot of things that kind of like work against you, but you got to like rise up over that. And consistently doing that is tough. So I would say imposter syndrome and consistently performing your best.
I mean, I feel like I relate. I'm sure a lot of other people relate to that. As somebody who was in PR, beauty PR, when I didn't even know what PR was, I was one of one. Only
Mhm.
Black woman in this field. A lot of the agency I work with, I was the only Black person that was there. And I can understand that. So, and that imposter syndrome is real because, similar thing to you. You talked about you didn't go to those Ivy League schools. I didn't study journalism. I didn't know a thing about PR, but here I am telling you guys I can do this. So,
Right.
that self battle is one thing. And then having, to also battle other people's opinions that you don't belong here or you shouldn't be here is interesting. So, I will say to you that was ordained for you. God wanted you there. You were supposed
Mhm.
to be there. And that was your plan. But did you feel, or that was your past, sorry, did you feel any pressure as like the only Black person a lot of times? Did you feel like there was a pressure to outperform, overperform, or be that like staple in the door to bring other Black people into this position too? Like, did you ever feel that?
Yeah, most definitely. With a company like Nike being so front facing, I really feel like, yeah, it's just a lot of variables. First off, being from Birmingham, and like not a lot of people, just like in our community in general, in the Black community in the inner cities, really like have that opportunity to like, see a better path for themselves, like, outside their situation. So, having to, navigate that is difficult. But then like, yeah, consistently having to like outperform, even in college, like where you're, needing to outperform your colleagues in order to kind of stand out. Yeah, it's tough, but honestly, I am someone that likes to stand by the phrase "work smarter, not harder."
Absolutely.
So understand what your field is and understand how you can make yourself stand out in that field.
I
Um, yeah. So for me, what that looked like for me was okay. You know, technically I'm sound. But like I was a marketing major at first in my freshman year, and then I changed to computer science. So the learning curve for me was a bit steeper, whereas my colleagues like they had been coding since like middle or high school. So technically I was sound, but maybe not as sound as them. But where I had them beat was like, or I had them beat, but like where I really excelled was, on the social side, so networking. So like I networked my way to the internship in Silicon Valley. Like they did like SurveyMonkey is the company.
Yep.
They didn't come to Auburn. Like there were no West Coast companies, no companies past Texas that came to our career fairs at Auburn. So I literally had to like network my way into Silicon Valley to get that internship. So yeah, it's really just thinking smarter, not harder. Just like of what you want in your career.
Absolutely. And that's amazing. And thank God for just you having the mindset to want bigger and broader for yourself, to network up. A lot of people, there's network up, down, and across, and you network yourself in a position that ultimately led to being here. Now, it's interesting. I had a conversation with a colleague of mine by the name of Marcellus Womack, and he's an amazing brand strategist at 1% agency. And he was talking about Nike and the Just Do It slogan. And I didn't know that the Just Do It slogan came from a prisoner that was being executed, and they asked him any last word, and he's just like, and he said, it wasn't just do it, but it was something on the line of something and do it. And Nike had kind of rephrased it. And now, with that being said, I loved how they took something and kind of created a brand. But what I wanted to ask you is, Nike's such an iconic brand, not just from the Jordan brand and their marketing and strategy, just from a foundational structure of how they've built themselves and put themselves together. Are there any things that you've learned from Nike in particular, from their strategy, their mantra? Is there any things that you've taken away for your own personal life and into building AfroNature, which we'll talk about AfroNature a little bit later?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think more so just what I've gathered from working at Nike is really just the go-getter attitude. Not really diving too much deep into our strategy and like what we're getting after, but more so just like the attitude that comes with working for Nike in terms of taking risks, in terms of, seeking that high reward from those risks. And like, I feel like, a lot of times we can kind of play it safe in our careers, or like choose the safe option of like, okay, like let me just stay, in my, or, not that anything's wrong with this, but like, let me stay in my hometown, or like, let me stay, close to family, or, this and that, where I'm comfortable. But really Nike taught me like, hey, like maybe I have to like pack up my stuff and in Atlanta and move in a week and a half, move to Portland to pursue this opportunity. It just really goes along with what Nike's about in terms of like just that go getter, just do it spirit. So I've carried that with me in my personal life as well. So I'll say that's the biggest thing I've learned.
I love that. And a great company culture is so important, not just for the work environment, but even just for just who you are as a person. So it's fair to say just do it kind of stuck with you, because you're like, even before you got there, you just been doing it. You moved and picked up and you just did what you had to do. So I love that. So we know that you're still with Nike, but you've also, I believe 2021, correct me if I'm wrong, when you started AfroNature.
Yes.
How did you transition? Because AfroNature sounds very different from tech and Nike. It's like two complete worlds. So,
Right.
how did you come about founding AfroNature, and what is AfroNature?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's so funny. So I like to say that, and like people always correct me when I say this, but I like to say that it was founded by mistake. Been like, no, and people will say like, oh, like nothing happens on mistake. Essentially what happened was 2021, I texted two of my friends and I was saying, hey, let's go hiking. Two black male friends of mine saying like, hey, let's go hiking sometime. If you don't know about Portland is just Oregon in general, the Pacific Northwest, like, Portland, Washington, Vancouver. It's very much an outdoorsy region. So, a lot of like, mountains, and got the coast, and, very dense green forests. And I've always been into nature. I've always been like, as you can see, my beautiful monstera plant in the back there. I've had her for 4 years now. But actually, let me just see if I can. Yeah, as you can see,
Ooh, she's
yes,
blossoming. She got all the plumes. She's just going.
right, exactly. Like I'm so proud of her.
I love
But anyway, yeah. So I'm really big into nature. I was like, hey, let's go hiking. And when we went out there, I was just really surprised at how vulnerable we were with each other, and just like how healing it was for, altogether for three black men to be out there. Those two, like, they had not met each other before.
Oh,
But when we got out there, we're talking about like, where we grew up, and, just like challenges that we faced in our career, challenges of being black in Portland, which there are many, challenges with that. And so I saw an opportunity to build community. And I was like, okay, let's continue to do this. Let's continue to have these hikes. So every 2 weeks, I would have an event. I would have like a gathering, and it really was just organic. Like I remember like just maintaining like an iMessage chat, group chat, and then 5 people would join, and then 10, and then 15, and then 20. And so it just really grew into this thing whereas now we have an event actually coming this Saturday. We're going to be going hiking about an hour and a half away, and I have 50 plus people that's signed up for it. Mostly, like if not all, Black people.
Yes.
Have signed up for it. And you know, it's just really rewarding because us as Black people, a lot of us don't really get out into nature like that. Obviously some of us do, and we're really comfortable with that. But like, a lot of us you talk to, they're like, hey, I'm not really into like, hiking or camping or, outdoor sports. So it's been really a joy to integrate us back into nature, in that way. So.
I love that. I am a nature person. I was telling you before we started, I'm going for a walk. I normally go for 3-hour walks, rain or snow. Depending on how cold it is, it might be an hour. But one of my mental health practices is walking. I zone out. My phone is off. Or like it's on silent. I may listen to music. Sometimes it's sound. Sometimes it's vibration. Sometimes it's just listening to the birds and the press conference that they're having. But it's so important, and it's so funny. A friend of mine, she started a company in Toronto called Noir Girls Plant, and it was all about planting and Black women planting, and she does all these hikes and all this stuff too. And there's something like you said about being out in nature. There's something about connecting, grounding yourself, being out in just that environment. And I also love to see that for Black men. That's not something that we widely hear of. I know gardening and those things are another thing, but Black men, young Black men walking and going out in nature. And you talked about that vulnerability piece. Like I know when I'm up north, in way north in Toronto, like where Algonquin, where there's our woods and stuff, the air is different. You see better at night. Like anytime I come in from a walk, I promise you, I can't even do work. I come home, I shower, and I feel so I'm so tired because the fresh air just takes all the negativity out of me. So I love that. Though I think AfroNature could be like its own festival, like a retreat. I would love to see like an AfroNature weekend retreat of like not glamping, but real time camping. I used to go camping as a kid, like real pitch tents, and my girls and I, when we got to our early 20s, would do that. But I think this would be such a grounding experience and get people into nature, and get people grounded fishing and just like real life skills, because I think the world's ending and we may need to learn how to fish. Like
You learn how to grow our own food very soon. You see what, at least in America, you see what inflation is doing right now. Like, I mean, everything. Like, I was literally just like ordering takeout at lunch, and like I noticed it was $2 more than it was like last month. I'm like, what is happening? Like, come on, y'all.
Listen, my sister and I earlier today went to McDonald's. We're like, we're trying to eat a little bit healthier, but I'm like, let me just grab something quick and small. And I'm like, let me get a value meal. They're $5, $5.65. It's $10. It was $9.80 something. I said, is this the same value meal?
Right.
I said, oh no. Let's come home. We're gonna cook from home because
Yo,
this. A value meal was $5.65, $5 plus tax, so 65 cents. It is now almost $10 for the same value meal. Fries, medium fries, a drink, and a small burger. Listen,
I literally remember growing up. So I'm born in '95. I remember growing up, and a double cheeseburger was $1.
Yep,
literally $1. like a value meal would be like $2.
Absolutely, and I think the whole point of AfroNature, outside of just being one with nature, learning how to take from what the earth has given us and be able to supply our own needs, because the world is doing way too much. How does AfroNature align with your personal values and visions?
That's a great question. So like for me, I would say it provides a refreshing look at what community looks like. I think it's just a different change of pace. because it's already tapping into that, mental and spiritual kind of like, healing, which I already enjoy. And like I tell people that like I would do this if it was just me. Like I'm used to going to hiking like, at least like every other week. I would go hiking just solo, really. But ever since this was kind of founded, I'm like, oh, like this is a perfect opportunity because I have so many places that I've been, that I can just share with people, and like we can go there together. And I think personal values, I would love to have like chapters of AfroNature in different cities. I think that's a goal for me, to kind of roll that out. And then just in general, like, getting Black people more into the outdoors and just increasing our mental health, and our mental and spiritual well-being. Because like, man, like it's tough being Black in America and in Canada as well. Like it's tough being Black here, like, so yeah. And man, like, not to get cynical here, but just like thinking about all the just craziness, like you said, is going on with like, just the discrimination and mass shootings and just like, everything of that nature. Like we deserve peace. Like we deserve to be nurtured and cared for. And I think that our Mother Earth, facilitates that for us. So, and it's free. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you said it best. We deserve this. Our mental health needs this. The news is so toxic. I can't even stand watching it. I know I need to watch it to keep up, but like here in Toronto, we have a string of attacks on our subway, stabbings, spitting, shootings, crazy attacks, and they're unprovoked. It's not targeted. They're just unprovoked attacks where a number of people have died. I don't even take the subway I refuse. Like
right.
I will Uber downtown. I don't care. It costs me 50 one way, 50 another way. I will Uber downtown because the safety of being in a car and knowing my surroundings is a little bit better than being on the subway. And it's just being out in nature is such a sense of peace. So what do you hope AfroNature, what kind of impact do you hope that AfroNature will make in the community and in the world as you continue to grow it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I hope that it just brings people closer to what's already inside of them, which is like that spiritual connectedness. I think that's the ultimate goal of it. Like whatever you may believe, like I just pray, or I just hope that AfroNature kind of brings you closer to whatever you believe, like whatever your practice is, because that's ultimately like what keeps me peace. Is like knowing that okay, like I can like go to my like my meditation or my prayer, or just like this or that, and nature really helps to kind of facilitate that for me. So, I think that's my hope, and then also just really kind of having a place where like Black people and BIPOC people can find refuge. I'm very big about like finding refuge in different things, in different healthy habits or different healthy things. And I would love for AfroNature to be a safe space. Like I take a lot of pride in like the energy that's cultivated like with AfroNature in terms of the intentionality of it, and just the just the really the intentionality of what we're building. Is really a safe space. So I hope that people hope and pray that people tap into that in that sense.
I hope they do too. And hopefully, they can make it out to Oregon, find you online. And we'll talk a little bit later how people can connect with you and AfroNature in particular to, join or maybe start a chapter of it in their state or city. But I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and ask you, how do you balance creativity and innovation with business strategy and practical considerations?
Okay. So basically, how do you balance the left brain and the right brain?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that in my field, it's really interesting because it's a very left brain field in terms of like what I studied, computer science and like coding, and like analyzing data. But you can attack it in a right brain way. So you can find like different solutions. Like our professors would tell us like hey, like there's more than one way to like find a solution. So like if you given a problem saying like hey find this answer to this like programming question, you can do it in, and I'm just kind of be a little technical here. Like you can do it in Java and C, C++, R, Python, in all these languages. And, that kind of, fuels your creativity of, okay, maybe I can attack it from this angle and not the, traditional angle. So I think identifying ways to where you can innovate and then using a left brain skill to innovate. I think that's like using that left brain and right brain.
I love that. I love the left brain, right brain analogy because I know that was a heavy question, but some people are one focus, and I know as creatives, as we are all are, I tend to find we go from just the creative angle all the time, but we don't tap into the other side of the business and the analytical side of things to make sure we have a balanced foundation. So, as somebody who works for a corporate company, and then you are also an entrepreneur and business owner at the same time, what advice would you have for other people who are still, and I'm quoting this from Simone Kendall, who is the CMO of Parfait, but she said something today, she works her 9 to 5, and then in her 5 to 9, she does X, Y, and Z. So what advice do you have for people who are in a 9 to 5, but then have a 5 to 9 on the side? What advice do you have for them to keep going and to keep building their business while working in somebody else's business?
Yeah, that's a great question, because like that brings up a good point that's regards balance. I think that when you have an initiative, it should be more fun than like it shouldn't seem like work. Like what I do is fun. Like like when I'm like making posts about like hikes, when I'm like scouting locations, when I'm like gathering the community together, making Eventbrite tickets or what's have you, like that's all fun for me. So, I think it's kind of like finding that fun in what you do, and like don't put yourself on a set schedule of like, okay, from a 5 to 9 or this or what so have you. Like just whenever the inspiration strikes. I'm a very okay, so I'm a Pisces. So I'm a water sign, so I'm very like go with the flow.
Yeah.
And like whenever that inspiration strikes of like hey, I had this idea for my business. Write it down. Start working on that. But if you operate out of a empty vessel, meaning like if you operate just like you're already, you're kind of burnt out, then your work's gonna reflect that. It's not gonna be the best that it can be. So I think that patience is a virtue when like starting your own brand. And yeah, like I wish I had more in depth to say, but again, like I mentioned, like this kind of for me was like on accident, quote unquote, like of like how it happened. This is very organic, so I'm still figuring it out too. But yeah, I think in whatever you do, maintain that balance, because like you definitely want to like like operate from a full tank, basically.
Absolutely. Balance is something we all entrepreneurs and business owners, I struggle with it. My work takes over my personal life all the time. And it's not good. And I'm learning balance. Patience is a virtue. I do not have that. My therapist and I are working on that together. It's a long road. Her and I love my fairy godmother, though. But I love what you said. One of the things I tell people, because I do a lot of speaking gigs about sponsorship and event management and such. And I had a girl come up to me 2 weeks ago and asked me, she wants to start a business. What's the business advice I can give her? And I said, mind your business. And what I meant by that was mind the business of your business. A lot of us want to get to the creative so fast. A lot of us want to just build the product and get it out there and sell it and make all this money. But we haven't put together the blueprint for success, which is that business plan, which is trademarking your business, which is understanding your cash flow. A lot of us entrepreneurs, me included, a lot of us don't even know how much we've made in our business because we haven't set up a system in place to know where the revenue is coming from or taken the time to stop. So one of the things when you talked about balance, that is a part of the balance, is knowing when to take time for yourself, when to take time for your business.
Yeah, and yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go right ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, because like I want to piggyback on what you said about just like the kind of ins and outs of the brand, like and that brought up a good point of like understanding the cash flow, understanding like okay how to actually build it out, like and that again that patience like we're talking about, like like I mentioned, I was just maintaining a group me essentially, with like just adding a couple people here and there, like 5 people. Like I remember 2 people would show up, 3 people. Like I've done an event where no one showed up, and guess what? I went hiking by myself. And like, I was like talking like, I was given like a tour of it. Like, I was like really kind of like talking to myself a little bit, but like, just kind of going through what it will look like when I have 20, 30 people,
Yeah.
come to the hikes. And like, I'm showing them, hey, like, this is the trail that we're going to be on. These are this kind of like tree species. Like, this is a cool route here. And, yeah, I was the only one. So yeah, people kind of like want that quick fix, or like that quick, fix of like, okay, I'm gonna build it today. Next week it's gonna have 5,000 Instagram followers. Like that's not how that works.
It doesn't work that way. And you know what's so important about that? I love that you just kept going. I love that no matter no one showed up, you still walked as if people did show up. Because I tell people all the time, regardless of 100 people show up or one people show up or no one shows up, the show has to keep going and you have to roll out the red carpet. I remember years ago, I created this community called Like-Minded Tribe. It was people who want to do like-minded things. I'm very different. I love animals. So you'll catch me at the zoo. You'll catch me, wrestling gators. And I've done that in real life, all of those things. But I wanted a crew of people. And I talked to people and they're like, oh my God, yeah, I want to go snowboarding or I want to do, axe throwing. So I created this tribe of people who wanted to do different things. And I set up a date that we could all meet at this one bar so we could at least get acquainted. And I had rented out the whole back area of the bar, had drinks and everything, and one person showed up. And I was messaging everybody in the group, where you at? Where you at? Oh, sorry, I can't make it. And I was defeated in that moment. But that one person that showed up, I was like, we're gonna have all the drinks. And we drank and we connected with the people at the bar. We had a great time. The people at the bar were like, what's happening here? We're like, we were supposed to have a meetup. So all the strangers from the bar sat with us, and there was like 60 people from the bar. Everybody just kept coming in and just meeting with us. And it was defeating to know that the people in the group didn't come, but it was so good to know that I still kept going. So I love that encouragement of push, and keep moving even though people don't show up. So I wanted to ask you before we close, what is one of the biggest lessons you've learned this far in your career? Just in general, what's the biggest lesson, either from AfroNature or from Nike or all the other internships? What's the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Biggest lesson that I've learned is there's no dream too big. Point blank, period. Like literally, again, being from Birmingham, I told myself, okay, you know what? Like for my rising senior year, I want to work in Silicon Valley. And I literally went out and did it. And that was like at the time, that was like wildly beyond my dreams. I didn't think it was possible, but like I literally just put my nose to the grindstone, and or like really not that kind of knowledge, but like really just like I did the work. I put the work into like, again, network and go on LinkedIn. Like this is back when like kind of cold messaging was okay on LinkedIn, like like 2016, 2017.
I still do it. It still works.
Right. For sure. So yeah, I did it as well, and like I'll shoot my shot at Google, at Twitter, Airbnb, Facebook, and then SurveyMonkey, they gave me a chance, and I knocked it out of the park. I absolutely crushed the interview, and like and I met the moment. So and then even now working for Nike, like that was beyond my dreams as well. Like working for the Nike World Headquarters, like I never thought I would be able to do that. But honestly, like once one dream comes true, then you're like, oh, I can do this. And then you start just dream chasing. Like it's an addicting feeling, but it's a lot of fun. Just realizing your dreams, each one, and like it doesn't stop. Like once you get to that one dream, now you're like, okay, like it's kind of like, and sorry if I'm rambling, but
no, of course,
it's kind of like like hiking, honestly. So like for me, and kind of tie that into nature, what I like to do is I'll hike to a peak. And then I like to look at like another peak and be like, okay, how can I get over there? And then I go there, and then I'm like, okay, is that one doable? Like, just kind of like looking at the landscape and be like, okay, next time I'm gonna go there. Like, it's just, that's kind of how you should look at your career and your personal adventures. Like, okay, like, I've met, this conversion rate for a brand. I've met a 60%, conversion rate for like, users to subscribers. How can I make that 65? Okay, what about 70? And don't be hard on yourself in the process, but like just look at it as a fun opportunity, as a fun challenge. So yeah, never think that your dream is too small. Like it can't happen.
This was so rich because you said, I took a few notes because you said a few things here, but I love that you talked about finding landmarks, because I'm not a runner. Running is not my thing. I just don't believe in stressing my life out to run,
Yeah.
unless it's for food or my life. Other than that, I'm not running for pleasure. But when I have started to get back into the habit of trying to run, just stamina and health, and I do the same thing. Like I'll be like, okay, Jackie, you're going to start here and you're going to run to that red mailbox. Do not stop until you get to that red mailbox. And then
Right.
sometimes in between that running, I'm like, okay, Jackie, I know I can go past the red mailbox. So I look for the next closest landmark, and you just keep challenging yourself. And I love that you use the analogy of hiking, because I do the same when I walk. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna walk this path. I'm like, okay, today I'm gonna walk to the end of this road, and then tomorrow I'm gonna go to that bridge. And same kind of,
Yes.
you keep pushing yourself. So the analogy I took from that is keep pushing yourself
Hmm.
past your comfort zone, because struggle breeds greatness. Nothing, a diamond is built out of pressure, right? And then I know we have to wrap, but you said something that if you could explain it, I would love to, because it hit me, and I think it's such an iconic statement when you said meeting the moment. What does that mean to you? I'm because I've never heard that phrase or saying before,
Yeah.
and it seems so profound. So what is meeting the moment?
Yeah, so meeting the moment, obviously since Nike is a a sporting company, I like to look at some of our athletes that meet the moment, like a Kevin Durant, like obviously LeBron, like a Naomi Osaka, and like I think greatness is looks different for each person. I think we're all great in our own individual ways. I think we're all geniuses in our own individual ways. But like meeting the moment means okay, having some butterflies, having some anxiety, but like just going up there and owning it. Like I remember I was giving a speech up on campus to an audience of 200 people in person, 500 online. And it was huge. It was like at one of Nike's, auditoriums, and you're in the moment, and everything just kind of goes away, and you just like lock in to like your interview, or like to what you're doing for that moment, and you meet it with insert adjective here. You meet it with grace. You,
Mm.
you you meet it with fervor. You meet it with strength and self assurance. So I think really just meeting the moment in terms of just just owning that space, taking up space. I think people are kind of afraid to do that. Like they're afraid to take up space. But that's kind of what it means to meet the moment.
Mic drop. I mean, that was
My
great.
God.
I mean, I've never heard that, and it's just such a profound statement, because I think we've all met a moment, but I think most of us are so wrapped up in having to prove something, and that we don't recognize sometimes that this moment is substantial in its own, and so just meet that moment and be met with grace and happiness and joy. So I love that. And I think this is a perfect way to close. I know you talked about, you have an AfroNature, I guess, meetup happening. For those who want to connect with you about AfroNature, or just even connect with you, how can they find you online, and how can they possibly join a meetup, or work with you to start their own in their own state?
Yes, for sure. So for those who would like to meet up, or just our information in general, it is www, and I could put it in the studio here, I wonder, but www.afronature.co. That is our website. Our IG, I will also put it in the chat here if I can. IG is _ Afronature _ so there's that. And then I would love, so we are officially en route to become a nonprofit 501c3. I've submitted documentation for that to our Secretary of State. So that'll be done soon. But like, if you're interested in like, helping start chapters in your city, you can reach out to me personally at Jabari Lateef at gmail.com, which is in the chat there. And yeah, we'd love to talk more. So it is an exciting initiative.
You guys, you heard it here first. If you want to connect with AfroNature, you want to find out more about who they are, go to afronature.co or follow them on Instagram at _@AfroNature_. And then Jabari was so kind to give y'all his email because a lot of people wouldn't. But connect with him one on one, even just to pick his brain, and just connect, build your own chapters, and just build your community. So you can reach him at Jabari Lateef at Gmail. Jabari, thank you so much for being here. This was such an insightful and amazing conversation. I
Yes.
wish you well in all of your adventures, and I'm wishing you spirit love in your Afro Nature next meetup, because I won't be there, but I wish you all the best, and hopefully I can meet up and we could do Vancouver. We could do Vancouver.
AfroNature Vancouver or AfroNature Toronto in the works.
Yep.
I'll be there.
We can figure it out. I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, Jabari.
Yep, no problem. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.